though. I just got back from the doctor. Said that I torn my MCL. It's completely torn, and it's gonna take about 6 to 8 months to heal. I know I can do it, but I definitely want to go back.
Before I start this video, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the people that's showing love in the comment section. You guys have no idea how much this means to me. I feel like it's so easy to get in your head sometimes, just constantly asking yourself if what you're making is worth it, if what you're making is right. You know, especially with me, who I see myself as somebody that's sort of juggling a lot of interests, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. But I feel like with this YouTube channel, I've sort of been able to merge them and make them into one thing. And you know, a lot of people have their own opinion. A lot of people will say, don't worry about the comments, don't worry about what people are saying. But my main goal coming into YouTube was to build a community, you know, a group of people that share similar interests or just think the same way, or maybe people are just getting into the stuff I'm interested in and we can just show them the ropes. So thank you guys a lot for that. It really helps. I feel like one thing that every up-and-coming artist has in common is that they're broke. It seems as if you have to give up a part of your life or just give up something in general in order to be an artist. You know, when I watch artist interviews, a reoccurring theme that I see is them leaving their family, them moving to New York, getting an apartment, not having enough money, you know, almost putting their eggs in one basket. You know, it seems as if they're throwing their life away for one specific goal. They take that risk, which is not what a lot of people are willing to do in today's generation. Look, I'm not saying this to say that in order to be a great artist, you need to have some type of sad story background, you know what I mean? You know, especially in today's generation, you know, as Sloan said, you know, the concept of a struggling artist is, you know, so romanticized in today's generation. You know, if you're not struggling to pay your bills, if you're not struggling to stay in the same apartment, you're not a true artist. You didn't grind, you didn't get it from the mud. And apparently a lot of famous, well, let me not say famous artists, because I don't want to throw any allegations, but apparently there is some type of nepotism in the artist industry. But that's a topic for another video. At the end of the day, what makes these artists great is the ability to persevere, the ability to not let their circumstance determine how much they should love their art. You know, even though it may seem that this art shit is not working, or this whole thing of like throwing your life away trying to do this, that, and the third is not gonna work, they still persevere because of their love for the thing they do. You know, I feel like I can sort of relate to this in some type of way, because I feel like when I make art, when I just create in general, it brings out a type of feeling that I don't get in a lot of the things I try to do. And I feel like that feeling is fulfillment, almost a meaning to my life, a meaning to what I'm doing. So now I try and put myself in artist perspective. It's almost as if they don't do this, they're gonna die. Their life has no meaning.
Rejection, and I don't really care to get my art critiqued, and I don't really care what you think about it.
I feel like what separates the struggling artist from just any other artist is the ability to create regardless of the outcome. You know, especially in today's generation, comparing artists of today's generation to artists of, you know, the 90s, like the Jean-Michel Basquiat and all those type of dudes, is honestly kind of different, because back then social media wasn't as influential. You know, like I know Jean-Michel Basquiat started off as a graphitist, if that's even a word, and he was, you know, obviously putting some controversial stuff on the walls to separate himself from the other people. And I feel like today's equivalent to that is sort of just doing some crazy shit on social media. Honestly, social media is where I get most of my information. Social media is where I find out about most of these artists. You know, you can even go as far as to say that social media is better than the art itself, at least when it comes to marketing. You know, marketing is what's gonna push it. The art could be good, but then man, I don't even know. But the main point I'm trying to make is that artists will not allow the algorithm or how many likes something gets to dictate how they feel about the art. There's been many times, especially on this YouTube channel, where I've made something that I just loved in the moment, but in the moment I post it and it gets no recognition or acknowledgement, I feel as if, oh man, I was trash anyways. You know, just totally downplay my creative process, you know, just totally downplaying everything that it took to make that form of art. And that's where that relentless obsession comes in. You know, artists are hungry. They don't care about the outcome. If you know your work is gonna improve over time, then why would you be, you know, flat out sad when it doesn't work the first time? You know, it's just gonna get better from there. You know, like, I'll just try again. You know, I feel like that's what separates, you know, the people. You know, just that's just what separates them. And it's not fake. It's not fake. It's almost like a whole mindset shift. You know, you have to think of yourself a whole different way than you do now. You don't just out of nowhere not care about what people think about you. You know, as humans, I just feel like it's normal for us to want people to recognize our art and the stuff we put out, and it's just so easy for that to get to your head. But obviously these artists that separate themselves obviously have a different way of thinking. They don't think the same way other people do. That's why they're part of the top 1%, you know, because they don't relate to the bottom 99%. They don't relate to everybody else, which is one of the reasons which makes them so great. Once that hunger, that obsession is able to just overpower the need to be seen. I remember this one saying, I forgot who said it, but it's once you separate your material, once you separate the materialistic aspect of this art shit, that's when you start to make true art, because you're not worried about what you get if you make the art. You're not worried about other people, because at the end of the day, you can't predict what people are going to think of the art you make. You just can't. You can make your favorite art piece, might not even be your best art piece, at least when it comes to commercial value. So having that ability to just understand that, you know, having the ability to not even give a fuck about that is honestly why I feel like people should be striving for, at least when it comes to making art. If you guys made it this far, I just want to say a big thank you. If you guys want longer videos, you know, just let me know inside the comment section. And yeah, you know, I'm just happy to be making these videos. You know, like I said, here to build a community. I am Martin, so we signing out. Peace. Catch you next time.